So what we're going to talk about today is the walk cycle, the crazy walk cycle. We're going to primarily talk about timing and how timing can affect the way your animation is going to work. So we've dealt with timing in the past on all of our previous assignments, but basically from the point of view that everything is shot on twos, every single last drawing is shot on twos, and our spacing is basically all halfway in-betweens. So we're either working a half, a quarter, eighth, 16th, depending on how many in-betweens you drop in. But it's always a halfway position. And you remember I mentioned that at the very beginning of the year when we were doing the perpetual ball bounce, that the general rule is anytime you do an in-between, it's always a halfway position. So now we're getting into the realm where this is no longer necessarily true, where especially when we have a character, in this instance here, with multiple parts of their body, different parts of the body can move at different times. As a matter of fact, different parts of the body can actually stop moving while other parts are still moving. So there's nothing to limit us in what we want to do with the character depending on the action that's taking place. So in this piece of animation that I have here, I've got my character, and here's my first key pose. We talked about this in the last lecture class where I was doing sort of the kick-out version where the character is doing almost like a Gestapo goose step type thing where he kicks his foot out and then goes to this pose here where he plants his foot down. That's the contact point. And then I've got my cushion point where he goes down and then comes back up. This is my mid stride, and then he kicks out on the opposite side. So I've got quite a jump between this drawing and this drawing here from the point of view of where that left foot is going. This foot over here is popping out quite dramatically there as far as the overall speed goes. So between this drawing here and this drawing here, you can see how the knee kicks forward and then it pops way out like that and up. You can also see there's a seaweed action in the body. So from this drawing here, the body starts to come down, moves forward. So the seaweed action is curving in this direction here. And you can also see it in the spine of the character back here. And then the character reverses direction, pulls back, and then pops up into this position here. So there's a very dramatic seaweed action that's taking place. Now I don't know if you can see it or not on the screen there, but these individual drawings here, well, you can see the drawing number right here. I've numbered it A1, then there's B1, C1, and D1 on the one side. And then what I've done is I've gone back to the A. So A and A are the opposite of each other. This A and this A are opposites to each other. And then B is opposite the other B, and C is opposite the other C, and D is the opposite of the other D. And so I've just numbered them and labeled them A1 and A2. And that way I'm not stuck with the idea of having to number anything. I don't actually put any numbers on it because I'm not even worried about the timing at this point. What I'm worried about in my animation, and this is what you'll find as well as you go through your own animation when we start to progress into the more of the character stuff, you are determining the timing, but you're also determining the action. The action always comes first. Timing is always secondary to whatever it is that's going on. You can think of the two of them at the same time, but really it's your actions that you want to describe. You want to get a clear picture of what position your character's body is going to be in at any given point in time. So that's where your drawing comes into play. We're not dealing with timing at this point, it's just positioning the character. So we're looking for gestures, basically. So now if I play this through and just loop it, you'll see, obviously I've got 8 drawings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 on each side, and I've got them exposed for 2 frames. So this is going to go twice as fast as a normal walk cycle since it should be 16 drawings. So you'll see that when he's walking incredibly fast here, which is not what I want. This is more along the lines of a fast walk, almost not quite a run because he's not getting himself up off the ground. So it is a very, very quick walk cycle, and it's not the type of timing that I want to have at all. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you how you can manipulate your timing on your drawings and play around with the sense of time in what's going on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just stretch out each of these individual drawings to 4 frames so that what we're dealing with now is a 16 drawing cycle. So at this point I've got my 8 drawings. I'm going to expand each of these out to 4, and what that'll do is that will create a 16 drawing cycle for myself. So let me just shift these all over here. Oops. So this is similar to Toon Boom. If you were working in Toon Boom, you'd just be doing the plus. You'd click on your drawing number and then put a plus on it. Plus plus actually, to add 2 frames. I just need to shift over that one drawing there. Okay, so now I have everything shot. Let me just render this. And now it's going half the speed that it was going before. So this is more of a normal walk. If I wanted to stick with this, you know, it'd probably be okay. But again, it's not characterizing the way I want the walk to actually be expressed. And so here's where we start to get into the manipulation of how long do you want each of your drawings to last on, well, it's not last on screen because we do have to drop in betweens, but we also have to consider what is the overall action and the pacing that we want to create within this action. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go in and I'm just going to play around with the timing on each of these drawings a little bit. So for drawing number 1, I'm going to stretch that out to double the length that I have it right now. I'm going to change it so that it's being held for 8 frames instead of just 4. And then my B drawing, that's my contact point. I'm going to keep that at 4 for now. My C drawing is my squish position coming down, so I'm going to expand that out to 4. And then I need to go to my D drawing, which is my transition drawing. So I'm going to leave that one also at the 4 frame mark. And I'll just go back in here now and change my timing on each of these drawings to match up onto the other side. So now what you see here is there's a bit of a pause on the kick point and there's a pause on the low point on the crossing position. And so this changes the dynamics of the way the walk is actually working. So this is closer to the idea of what I wanted to do, but it's still not quite right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and add some more frames in and maybe take some frames out of certain drawings and just see what we can come up with. So I'm going to go in first and I'm going to add in another 2 frames to my A drawing. I'm going to take 1 frame out of my B. I'm going to add that 1 frame into my C drawing and my D. I'm going to take a frame out of that one. Actually, I'm going to take 2 frames out of this one. And then I'm going to add my 2 in here, take away my 1, add 1, and take away 2. So see how that puts more emphasis now on the kick point. Also makes the swing forward on the leg when it goes into that kick much faster, and that's just by taking out a single frame. Okay, and actually it's the double frame on the D drawing is what's actually doing that snapping action. So again, this is now getting closer. It's sort of what I wanted, but again, not quite. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in, and on C, you remember I took out the 1 frame on my C drawing. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in 2 frames more onto it. I just want that low point to be held just for a little bit longer, so I'm just going to shift that over. And so now that adds more emphasis to the down point. I'm not sure I really want that kick, that fast kick there. I wanted it to be more of a zombie-like walk because he's got his arms out in front of him. I think it's just a little bit too snappy on that point. So I'm going to go back and change it so that this drawing here, I actually need an in-between in there. So I'm going to add in 2 frames there, and the D on this side over here, I'll add in the 2 frames over here. That's closer. I think what I'll do is I'm going to hold the kick point longer. I'm just going to extend that for another frame. So just slide this over one, and I'm going to take away on C, take away one frame there. Add the one frame over here. Did I add the frame over here? No, I didn't. That's more what I want. Okay, so that's more of the lumbering zombie type feel to it. It's got a better cadence to it. I like that timing the best. All right, so now that I've played around with it, this is the same type of thing that I want you to do when you're doing your own pencil test as well, is play around with the timing and find what looks best to you. That's ultimately what it's all about. So number one, you do your drawings, you pose the keys out to express the dynamics of what you want your character to be doing, the positioning of the character, and now you go in and you play with the timing to see whether or not it's moving at the time that you want it to move. And at this point, a lot of people, and I mentioned this to you at the end of first semester, warning you in advance that we were going to be doing stuff like this, I don't want you to get scared at this point. I want you to sort of embrace this idea that you can start to play and you can start to manipulate things and visually see what your character is doing right down to the single frame. And you can toss things around and move them around here, there, and everywhere until you get ultimately what you want to get out of your animation. So there's those two combined things together. One, the drawing, which is all part of your character design, your life drawing, and your animation class, to sort of pull in those elements of gestural drawing and character design, and now we're putting it together into dynamic posing to express what you want your character to be doing. And now we're sort of adding in the timing aspect of it to make the character actually do exactly what you want to do. And there's that freedom that you're now being allowed to have. Everything up until this point, I've been saying, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I've been saying, here's the timing. It has to be like this, this, and this. And now you're free to do whatever you want. You're free! Hooray! Okay? But don't be afraid of it. And I think that's what a lot of people in the past that I've seen, they get scared. They try to fall back on what they're comfortable with. And you don't need to do that. So from this point of view, as we're watching this over and over again, you'll see that there's that kick point where he kicks his foot out. And I've got that held for longer in there. And what we're going to do is I'm going to talk now about the idea of different things moving at different times. And not everything has to move at the same time. And basically that's the definition of overlapping action. Not everything happens at the same time. But now we're extending that beyond to the point where some things can even stop moving while other things are still moving within your action. And so what we're going to do is between these two poses, and actually what I need to do, well, I can do it in here, between these two drawings here. So between these two drawings, we've got that kick point, and then from there we come down into this position here. So you can see the back leg is moving back slightly as it comes down here, and between these two drawings here, the back leg is also moving back slightly. So what we can do is we can time this out so that the foot is all evenly spaced all the way through. We can just subdivide it into halves, quarters, eighths, and make it an equal mechanical movement. But the leg, as we go from this position here, from this position here, I do want it to snap up there. And you can see that the number of frames that I have in here, I've got, this is 1 frame, 2, 3, 4, I've got 5 frames there. So that means that I actually have room for 2 in-betweens. One is shot on 2s, one is shot on 1s. Right? So what I could do is I could express a favor in there to cushion it up into the high point. So between this point here and this point here, my halfway position between the toe arcing up and across over here, I could have a halfway position over here, and then I could favor it up into this just to cushion up into it. But then going from this position, how many drawings or how many frames do I have here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so I've got 11 frames in there. 2 of them are my first drawing, so then I've got room for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in-betweens. Between this drawing and this drawing, there's 5 in-betweens that can go in there. So again, what I could do, based on what we've talked about in the past, is evenly space the foot from here down to here, or slow it out from here and have it come down here, or do the reverse. It comes out fast and slows in, which would look awkward, right? But 5 drawings in there, shot on 2s, one of them is shot on 1s, that's 11 frames. That's almost half a second. That's a lot of time when you're talking about this type of an action. Okay? So what I want to do is I'm going to make this foot hover in this position, probably for 3 drawings, and then have it snap down over the last 2 in-betweens. My 2 frame in-between and my 1 frame in-between would probably be a cushion coming into it. So I'm actually going to hold this portion of the body here while everything else moves into this position here. Sorry, that position there. Okay, so everything else would be halved. Right? So I'm just going to move the camera over here, and I'm just going to do that one in between just to show you the type of timing that I'm talking about.